See this. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and for supporting the movie. We are here to answer any questions you had. Donald is going to be like Oprah and run around with a mic. Oprah doesn't do that. Donahue. For those of you old enough to remember Donahue would run around with a mic.
I can do Oprah, though.
I preferred if you were Black Donahue.
Okay.
And I'll also have a mic here, so we'll answer any questions.
Hey, right, look, there's a lot of stairs in this, so if you got questions, I would appreciate it if you sat up and, went to the edge. Or
whatever.
I don't want, okay. In the front.
Oh, you found someone in the front row. Lazy fuck.
Hi, Mr. Braff LA Kickstarter.
Call me Zach, please.
What was it like working with Rob Simonson, the composer, and of course all your music choices, and how did you balance the process of working with a composer doing original music versus your song choices?
Well, I like to use very minimal score. I mean, people think that's weird when I say that, but what I try, so much TV and film has just music on non-stop, and I feel that if you use it more sparingly, it has a greater impact. And so, the songs we use mostly for transition, and the score is for those smaller moments. So my simplest answer would say score is more often for a moment that won't hold the whole song. It's for like, we call a little sting, just sort of like to travel over a moment, whereas you don't have time to start a whole song. Rob Simonson is wonderful. I hired Rob Simonson off those Apple ads. If you remember those Apple ads that were so simple, it was just a piano melody, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. They so moved me that I Googled who wrote the piano melodies for that Apple iPhone. It was the one about sharing photos that was like everywhere last year. And it was him, and it turned out he was a movie composer, and I met him, and we became good buddies. And what I tried to do with this movie was have it unique and have some of the artists I love create original songs. So I went to my favorite musicians and said, if I showed you the movie, would you consider writing a song that comes out of you right after you've seen the movie? Like, what is me and my brother's art inspire in your art? And they all said yes. That's why we have an original song. That first song is the original Shin song that I'm sure we told you on the web is the first single off the soundtrack. And then the Coldplay wrote a song that Cat Power sings. That's the song that starts when we're in Noah's Cliff working on the costume, and then it goes into us with the balloons going into the hospital. That's the title track. And then Bon Iver wrote an original song. That's the song that's in the Final Fantasy when the synagogue's all blown out, and I discovered the guy in the cloak is my dad. Yes.
I got another one right here.
Yes.
Hi, Zach. Thanks so much. The movie was fantastic. And as a fellow Jersey person, Garden State was awesome too.
Thank you.
I heard that. I can't remember if it was Jonah Hill or somebody, one of the big stars. Somebody on Howard Stern recently, I don't know if you heard it.
Seth Rogen.
Yeah. That's it. Seth Rogen was saying how he thought this was a bad way to finance a movie and blah, blah, blah. Have you had any flack from the industry in general? Has anybody given you?
No, it's funny that, the flack that I did get when you guys made it funded in 48 hours was mostly it was not from the industry at all. In fact, the industry thought it was amazing. It put me on the cover of Variety. And I never had any detractors. He's by far the most high-profile person to say anything about it. And I, with all due respect, I just don't think that he fully understands what the limits were. He's been in giant movies. He's a hilarious person and been in some very successful giant studio movies. So he can get anything he wants to finance. My film's Garden State was big by indie standards, but made $35 million domestically, which is what a Seth Rogen movie will make opening weekend. So I really can't get, I could not get this film finance. I tried, and I was willing to put my own money in, and obviously did. But I tried every avenue. So I do think that his comment was something to the effect of, like, I'm sure he can get a film finance. And the truth is that, of course, I could go make a big studio romantic comedy or something the studio is putting out, but to make something about spirituality and the Judaism that he grew up with and all the eccentricities of this movie, no one was interested in paying for it other than you. Yes. Lonnie.
Hey, gentlemen. I have a different type of question, if that's all right. My name's Brad.
Hi, Brad.
There's a beautiful moment in the film where Zach, your character, and Kate Hudson's character are talking about when you would see each other happiest.
Yeah.
Could you talk about, for the two of you, when you feel like you've been happiest?
That's a great question. You want to go first?
Kind of tonight.
That's a great answer.
Well played, sir.
That's a great answer. We just came from the premiere at the DGA, and then we did a screening in the Dome, and now we're here. So for us, this is, I agree with Adam, this is one of the best days of our lives. For me, it would be also just performing. You know, when I was in public school, and I felt so alienated because I just didn't have any interest in sports, and I just thought, like, I am from a different planet because these people, man, do they love sports, and they love teams, and being yelled at by a coach, and and then my parents figured out that I was a theater kid, and I got sent, and they sent me to a great theater camp, and all of a sudden I felt like Simba in The Lion King when they lifted him up. And I thought for the first time, oh my God, there is a place for me. And so my memories of that special theater camp, finally finding people like me, is when I was happiest so far. And this. Yes. Anybody else?
So
He's getting cocky now. Go ahead. Next time. Oh, 3 steps.
when I supported this project, I didn't know that my dad was going to suddenly die. And on June 25th last year, he fell off the ladder and died. I got an opportunity to be an extra that day in the church. And so I was at the funeral all day, not long after he died, and it was hard. And the program that what you had printed on it is a Jewish typical thing that goes in the program, and I had already appropriated that and written, custom things in it. What was your writing process? What did you, where did the story idea come from, and how did you guys work together?
Well, thank you for what you said, and I'm sorry for your loss. I think it came from what you just said. We're 10 years apart, and both approaching. Our father is 79 and healthy, but it came. Adam can speak to this too, but for me, it came from God. I can't imagine my life without my father, and my fear of dealing with that. My fear, especially dealing with that, without being a religious person, where there is a system to help one grieve. And that's why I say in the movie, if you have faith, you're lucky. People like secular folk like me aren't, or at least this character and myself, weren't knocking that at all. We're saying how lucky they were. But those of us who don't have a religion and are trying to find spirituality, are trying to grasp with the idea of being humans on this rock and losing people you love, simultaneously having to explain that to children, what that means. That was one of the catalysts for me. I don't know if Adam wants to speak to that.
Yeah, I think it was another thing that I noticed was that there's a conversation that can start with your parents when they're older about it, but it's really hard to start until it's kind of too late. And I was also struck while we were writing this about how many people I talked to who had unresolved things with their parents who had passed away, and how that really affected them in the rest of their lives. And this was really more of an exploration. We hadn't gone through this kind of thing ourselves, but
It was kind of in a way, it was cathartic to write about it and have conversations with our father about it, because it forced those conversations to be had. And because our father is religious, we were able to say, I was able to talk to him in a way I hadn't, with some bravery, and be like, so what do you really believe, Dad? Do you think what do you believe? It was fascinating to have those conversations. Thank you.
All right, here we go.
Hey, two questions. One, can we see your boobs?
My boobs are kind of tight right now, but just imagine their gloriousness.
Second thing,
I love that Donald thought that was funnier than any of you guys. That's why I love him. Yeah, second question.
second, I think, or we saw back in December, we got come to like a special viewing, and you changed the intro from like a poem to
Yeah, it started with Mending the Wall, the poem that Joey says on the diving board. That's how it used to open.
Yeah. What was like the decision making behind that?
I changed a couple things. You know, I even changed some things post Sundance. You're constantly it's an evolving. Filmmaking is an evolving art that you need an audience to learn from. It's like when you do a play, you do a thing called previews. The critics aren't allowed to come until you can do the play for a couple of weeks and do it with an audience, because you need to have some feedback. Okay, that joke is not funny. We need to stop trying to make that joke funny. Or the other high-class problem, like, wow, at Sundance, that joke is getting such a big laugh that you're not hearing the next two jokes. So, and also, when you stick with a film, any audience, you go, you know what, I can just feel it inherently. There's a lull here. I need to trim a little time here. With the case with the poem, I think it was a little too esoteric to start the movie. I was already throwing a random fantasy with a space knight, a robot, and a little boy and the iPad. I think I was blasting the audience with a fire hose of too much information, then coupling in the Robert Frost poem. I knew that they might like it if they remembered it when it circled back with Joey on the diving board. And I tried both versions, both of me reading the poem, piece of it, and Joey reading the poem. Joey, who plays Grace. I ultimately felt like I still wanted to do a bookend thing, so we did it with the thing at the funeral. But I thought the Robert Frost poem was just to open the movie like that was one too many stimuli. Bill Lawrence has the thing where it's just, you don't joke the joke, you have a funny joke and you add something on top of it and all of a sudden the joke's not funny anymore. Well, if you're trying to give the audience all this imagery and vibe and art, for lack of a better word, if you do too much, you can't digest it. You have to always remember everyone's seen this for the first time. I've seen it a zillion times, so I can go, oh, I get that. But you have to always remember that you're showing it to an audience who's never seen it before, and you don't want them to get lost early on. That's bad. Low bro. It doesn't make sense.
No problem. I also noticed that you got rid of the USC marching band.
Yeah.
You know, and I was wondering how much video or film did you have to?
It's a good question. About 45 minutes of extras will be on the DVD. When you try and dance this line between drama and comedy and the surreal, and you're going to have misfires. And that's one of the things I like to do. We shot the movie in 26 days. So what I like to do as a filmmaker, what I did here and what I did with Garcia, is go out and get as much as I can. It's almost like a scavenger hunt. I collect. And then in the editing room, you go, okay, let's find this movie. And so, for example, the marching band at the funeral was very moving to me. So actually, it happened at John Ritter's funeral, or not his funeral, but his memorial service. John Ritter was a hero of mine, and he loved USC. And at his memorial service, after people got up and gave speeches, some were funny, some were sad, his wife got up and said, all right, everyone, well, enough of the tears. As you all know, John loved USC. So ladies and gentlemen, the USC marching band. And they came in full blast and just blasted the roof off the place, playing the USC fight song. And I was so moved by it that I tried to do a version of that in this. But totally, when we put the movie together, it was wrong. It didn't work.
Can you also give a shout out to my son Josh, whose boss wouldn't let him be here today? And after Donald, you're his favorite actor.
Yeah, Josh! I got it. Don't worry about it, Zach. I got it. Yeah, Josh!
Josh, you're filming this as in Josh. Other than your taste in actors, you seem like a very good man.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, Josh!
Poor Arclight. I hope this isn't attached to your Dolby sound system, or we've ruined it.
Oh my God. Did you make this?
Yes, I did.
You made
Tell him why.
Oh my God.
Well, let me explain. Funko Pop is something
I
I
work
would...
for Funko.
Oh, you work for Funko?
I made that for you.
Oh my God, there's so much happening here. Thank you so much, you're so sweet. Funko Pop makes these little figures for like movies. They don't make them for Scrubs. Movies, they haven't made them for Scrubs yet, but they make them for like Game of Thrones and all these cool things. And I'm such a Game of Thrones dork that I'm buying their little figures. And this lovely lady who works there made me a JD Funko Pop. Maybe one day they'll be for sale for real, but this one's mine. That's very sweet. Okay. No. They ran out of brown. There's only a peach over there. Typical.
She won't shut up.
Very sweet. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Merrick. First of all, I want to let you know that Donald totally took a quarter from this seat.
You wouldn't have taken the quarter. If you saw the quarter, you would have taken it too. If any one of you saw the quarter, you would have been like, oh shit, a quarter.
Anyway, so it was awesome.
The movie or Donald taking the quarter?
Both.
Okay, good.
I introduced myself to you in the wrong order as an actor. I saw Garden State, and then I could be totally wrong, but I swear I read an interview with you where you said that you were more in real life like you were in Scrubs. Is that at all true?
I'd probably answer that question differently depending on the day. I always say acting is like a mixing board, a sound mixing board. It's adjusting different aspects of your personality. So when we're all having a silly, goofy, wacky day, that was turning the volume of that up on Scrubs. And when you're having a really depressing, I want to wallow under the covers day, that was turning up the volume on other aspects, like the character in Garden State. So I think, like all human beings, we all have that inside us, and I would probably answer who I'm most like different depending on what kind of day I'm having.
So, is your character in this movie an accurate portrayal of how you are on some days?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely the most honest, accurate portrayal of how I feel and what I'm thinking about and questioning, and the kind of father my brother is, and the kind of father I want to be. You don't get to ask 3 questions, I'm just kidding, but thank you very much. This young lady here, Mo.
Okay.
Okay, well, I have 2 quick questions. I won't go to 3. First, can I get a little selfie? And
Take a group selfie.
Get a little
we can do
selfie.
a group selfie.
Second question.
Second question is, I noticed, throughout your works, a lot of daydreams and a lot of daydreaming. And some are very grandiose, some are, funny. But what's the tie to daydreaming in all of your different works?
Thank you. Regarding the selfie, we're going to take a giant group selfie. I can't take individual selfies because my nightmare is disappointing any of you, and I will never get to all of you, and my Jewish guilt will feel horrible all night. So I can't take any with one because I can do with everyone. But I'm going to get here. Ian Online has been retweeting everything I'm tweeting today, and Wish I Was Here is trending across Los Angeles and I think California. And we're going to take a big group selfie, and it'll be on Ian Online, and then you guys will all scoot together. It'll be delicious. Daydreaming on Scrubs was all Bill Lawrence. That's him. So I can't take any credit for that. But I think somewhere along the lines, I do respond to that. I have a wild imagination. I have really weird dreams. And so I think I have to give him credit for that. In terms of this movie, the concept for me and Adam was that what would it look like if the hero you imagine you'd be as a child was manifested by your modern day adult brain, and who's played video games and loves sci-fi movies and seen all the current, sci-fi fantasy stuff. And we alluded to like Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of stuff. So that was the hero that he wanted to be as a kid was sort of serving as his guardian angel, and as he learned and searched for how to be the hero in his actual life. That was the concept of that. Yes, Tom.
Hi, Zach. My name is Saya. I've been a huge fan of yours forever.
Thank you so much.
So, for about 29 years now. So, I read that Wish I Was Here was a follow-up to Garden State. I was wondering if there was going to be a follow-up to Wish I Was Here.
Well, I don't want to say that. It's not my goal to sort of do like, to wait another 10 years. If you like this, there'll be more. But all I'll say is not necessarily a follow-up, just like this isn't a follow-up to Garden State. It's just, I was trying to explain in the Kickstarter thing in so many words what we all feel is that we all have our favorite filmmakers, and I imagine since we have overlapping tastes, they're some of the same people. So what I like about a lot of those filmmakers is that they have their style that is so them. It's so clearly a David Fincher movie. It's so clearly a Woody Allen movie. It's so clearly a Hal Ashby movie. And so that's what I aspire to do, to have a vibe, a tone of things I direct. So there'll be more of those. Thank you.
Hi, Seth. I'm Gabriel over here. Hi, Donald. Huge fan. Amazing movie. I just wanted to, it's not really a question, I wanted to let you know that this movie really touched me because it felt like my life, but in the Catholic way. Right. That was exactly like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Before you even continue, I just want to say thank you so much because that's the kind of thing that a studio won't let you make a movie like this. You can say like, guys, people are smart. They'll insert their own religion here. Like, Jews, your 2% is shrinking. I mean, come on.
So it was like watching my life in the past. My dad did not die, but that's what I'm going to do when I got here is call him and try to get closer to him. And thanks for this movie because this is what got me to that. And just one quick question now that I thought about it. What is one lesson that both of you learned from making this whole process with Kickstarter, the movie, writing, everything?
One thing I learned was, and it's going to sound silly, but that there's things we know in our lives that we all know really well. Whatever you do in your life, whatever your pursuits are, you know that thing really well. And then when you go to talk to other people about it, we naively assume that they know it as well. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. And so when there was some blowback to me using crowdfunding, I naively assumed, stupidly, that everyone on Earth understood the intricacies and hardships of trying to get an indie movie financed in 2014. So when I had to sort of debate that with people and explain to the people of the world, whether they be Hollywood people or an angry blogger, it was an education for me going, I have to be kind and not vitriolic back to anyone who's unkind to me, but also understand that this is a very complex thing for someone. I imagine they would go, you were on a hit show, you made a big movie, fuck you, why can't you get a movie made? And my response in a kind way was, I've been trying, and I can't. So that was a big lesson for me. Adam, do you have one?
Well, I was really nervous for Zach when the Kickstarter thing started going down because I guess I didn't know y'all as well as he did. I wasn't sure you were going to catch him. And it was an amazing day when those numbers rose up that first day. And that was an amazing experience. And it's also been really great to be working with Zach again on something. And I think we had a really great time, and I'm hoping we work again.
We will. And the other thing I want to say, another lesson I learned, is to just to be unstoppable. I mean, this is not to turn it into a sort of self-help course, but I really preach and live being unstoppable. Everything that I've done that you have enjoyed and the reason you're here was preceded by many years of people telling me no. Whether it was, I started auditioning when I was 13 years old. I didn't get scripts until I was 25. Everyone in town with a phone and a desk passed on garbage tape. Everyone in the town with a phone and a desk passed on this. So I try and live my life like that. Like no is just a comma on the way to yes.
This is the last question right here, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to do a giant group selfie. This better be a good question. A lot of pressure on you. No, come on, it's a lot of pressure.
So a lot of us are waiting for Dr. Acula to release, so I don't know if that's happening.
We can't go on the Dr. Acula question. We don't own Dr. Acula. Walt Disney owns Dr. Acula. We'd love to make it, but talk to the mouse.
Thank you. Well, my name is Sven, and I just want to say thank you again for coming. This movie started off with a dream sequence as well as Garden State, where you're on the plane, and then there's also the motif of death. And I feel like after 10 years, like there might have been some things that you still wanted to do. But what was the hardest thing that, even though you had to say over everything, that you still had to cut out, even over your own thoughts?
I cut two things. Good question, and it'll all be on the DVD. There are two things that first came to mind. One, there was another big fantasy sequence that was just gorgeous. I mean, it was one of the pretty shots in the movie, and it was beautiful, and it was snow. And I'm friends with Robert Stromberg, who directed Maleficent and has 2 Oscars for production design, and he did a matte painting for me. And it was gorgeous, but in the spot it was in the movie, it was confusing for people, and because they introduced a new element. You'll all be getting the script, I assume, because it's part of your thank you, so you can read it. Actually, I'm probably gonna cut out the script, but anyway, it was. Or Danica, I need the picture for ourselves. So that one was tough for me because I was really proud of it. The art that went into it, the cinematography that went into it, and the production. It was just really pretty. But that I will put on DVD. And the other one where I spent the most of your money and didn't end up in the movie was we shot a giant, epic Jesse's birthday pool party. And it was sort of a social commentary on where the kids have started to where our sweet little Grace is going. And it was like an LA Valley crazy pool party, high school kid insanity. And Hooch was there. Hooch was the stepfather in charge of pyrotechnics. It was really awesome, but ultimately distracting, because in terms of screen time, the Joey story that became more interesting to develop and spend time with was her relationship with her uncle. And we wanted to introduce that she was a young girl going through puberty and feeling flirtation and feeling those feelings come alive, and so she liked this boy. But ultimately, going off to the party and this sort of gentle social commentary was a tangent, and that was a hard cut. But it's right. That's the thing. Is when you edit a movie, you gotta go, it's great, but it hurts the whole thing. And that happens a lot in filmmaking and in TV, when you go, oh my God, I love this scene so much. But ultimately, it hurts the whole thing, so it doesn't belong in the movie. But I'll put it on the DVD if you want to check it out with some commentary. All right, what we're going to do, because I can't take selfies with all of you, even though I'd love to, is we're going to do a big giant selfie, and we're going to put it on Online, and you guys will all be in it. So,
if you want to come down,
as much as scrunched in or down, you can stand up. Don't be shy.
We don't have to move. You can sit down.
If you don't,
it's all right. No, we're taking a selfie, those who just asked.
You guys seem so excited about this.
I can't wait.
Hey, you guys, the last thing I'll say is this is the last screening we're doing in LA, so if you liked it, please tell all your friends and spread the word, because you're our posse members. Here we go. We're going to take a selfie for the universe.
Oh, shit. Take your hand off my ass. I like it.
1, 2, 3, scream!
God, thank you. I love you all so much. Thank you. Take care, y'all.